the founders of D-Gens Only. What up? What up?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having us on.
That sounds official.
I love it. I'm a little jealous.
We need a member. We need a members only jacket or something.
We do need it. You're right. We do need like a D-Gens Only jacket, and that's a great idea for the merch store. We're gonna get that up ASAP.
I think it's a better idea for something else that I've given you guys too in the past, which maybe we'll keep it secret.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we don't want to release it.
You're talking about exclusive stuff. I think that's a nice way to get.
Yeah,
people
there
on
you
board.
go.
Yeah, there was actually I think we had a conversation of, hey, we need a hashtag, we need like a saying, and I don't even know, like, when do we start doing D-Gens Only, Ryan?
Honestly, I feel like it was just an organic happening, kind of like life on this planet. We don't really know what caused it to happen, but one day we leaned into being degenerates and we shortened it, and we had some fun trying to get some sound drops made by Fiverr where they didn't know how to pronounce D-Gen. Yes. They pronounced it Degen. So of course, if you
so yeah, we paid some guy to like cut up a hype reel of like Super Bowl week. The guys are talking hashtag Degens Only. So now like we cut out that part where he's just completely butchering it, and it gave it even more legs.
Dude, how did you two? Because I know we work together at Blue Wire. Our shows are both on Blue Wire, but I'm also a fan of your content. You guys do a show the way I would do a show with my buddies too. Like, you guys don't take yourselves too seriously, but you guys know your shit too, which is dope. It's more like a casual hang. At least that's how I perceive your show. But it's also like you're going to get some bars too. You're going to get some input and understanding of like the betting lines and whatnot. But I love the hang, dude, because every time you guys come into the studio and I'm working it, I get excited because I'm like, all right, I'm one of them. D-Gens Only.
Yeah, because I mean, for me, when I think for Ryan and I, it's not like we started out with some grand plan. It was just, oh my God, the people that were talking about sports gambling, especially when we started, were just the corniest, nerdiest dudes, or they were either just super data-driven nerds, but even those guys weren't even in the space yet. A lot of it was just there really wasn't much stuff.
Stuffy Las Vegas guys. Really.
Yeah, it was like guys selling tout packages on 1-800 numbers, like on AM radio. So there really wasn't anything that was just like two guys hanging out talking about like, hey, who do you like this week? What are we getting down on? What are we betting on? And that's kind of the genesis of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you have formal shows and you have informal shows, and we both grew up with Stern. And so there's something super engaging when you make a community out of your actual show. We have guys behind the scenes. We talk. We bring them out. You make them a character, and then the audience can relate to that person. Oh, that's me in this scenario. And so to your point, yeah, the bars come with just betting. You're a gambler. You understand. Experience is the only thing that matters in the game. Yeah. And so part of it is, when you're selling the idea of gambling to an audience, you also need to sound like someone who actually gambles. And I think we both know right now the space is flooded with people who know what they're talking about, and then a lot of people that maybe don't know as much about what they're talking about,
or they can't even like read the lines. I've heard
very, very.
I've heard someone say that they're +8.
Yeah.
Instead of like +8, I was like, oh my God, how are you on ESPN? How are you on CBS? Like,
well, and a lot of shows, a lot of gambling content is just, hey, this person's an attractive sideline reporter who knows how to read a teleprompter. Let's build a gambling show around them. And it's I don't know. I don't think it resonates with the average gambler because they know this person wasn't sweating out, like a 14 parlay in their garage a few hours before the show.
We joke that you can't, you can't be that good looking and also be a gambler.
Piece of shit, right?
There's a certain element that comes to really being into it. And to your point, when you hear someone say, "Oh, I'm going to take this team, +8," or I'm going to take this other team,
negative
2.5, 2.5. It's like no one speaks like that.
Immediately, I'm like, oh boy, you have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm checked out. Like when I hear that.
And if you're, just think about your experiences in college or when you're younger or whatever. You're at a bar. If you're really attractive, it's like, hey, who you meeting up with? What do you got going on? You're not sitting in the corner filling out a parlay card or, scrolling for injury reports for college football. Like that's kind of more our crowd.
How'd you guys link up?
We're both from the East Coast, but we actually met in Los Angeles. Once you
Having never met each other
never
before?
met each other, I moved out with a guy who was in the stand-up space. Sean was doing stand-up, and once you are an East Coast guy and transplant to the West Coast, you stand out like a sore thumb when it comes to consuming football content. The idea of sitting around all day and watching all the games is like, why would you do that? It's nice out. Go to the beach. So, most of my friends in Los Angeles, I probably met through like the entertainment or other things that were happening around me, but it was mostly because, oh, you watch football, let's hang out, or oh, you understand how to talk about gambling, or you have a bookie, I need simple conversations like that.
Yeah, I mean, and we were roommates for a while there, and we had a house, and it was just this.
Did you guys lose it because of bets, or
what's up?
What happened to the house? You guys just lose it because of bets?
No, it was.
We gave it up. Yeah, we put up the deed in a poker game.
It's hard to get like a long-term girlfriend if you're also living with 4 other dudes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had like a kind of just a wall of TVs going. This is like DirecTV early, like Sunday Ticket, and we would have all the receivers going.
How far back are we going?
So
2005.
Yeah, 2005. Jeez. Feeling super old.
And honestly, before flat screens, we have a setup in our office now we call God's Eye. It's got 8 screens, watch all the games.
Beautiful, pristine.
Dude, why would you ever leave that?
Why would we come to Vegas?
Yeah.
So we joke that we have the best sports bar in Los Angeles in our office.
Well, it is funny because there's a sports bar underneath us because it's like an office building and there's a bar underneath us. And I went down there a couple times to get food, and there's guys watching games there, and they only have 3 screens. They don't have all the games on them. Like, they have no idea there's a much better sports bar right above them because we also have a bar and so.
But before all of that, we had one of those big 50-inch. They're 4 foot deep or whatever, and we built this wooden frame that went around one TV so we could stack a second big 50-inch TV on top.
I mean, if
put
you're
a couple on the
you gotta
side.
do it right.
And I remember my wife when we moved in together. We were still doing the hobo version of God's Eye. So we had the big giant TV on the bottom. Then we had this rickety frame that Ryan and I built around the TV, and then we had a giant TV on top of it. And she's like, I can't have 2 giant TVs stacked on top of each other in the living room. So she made a curtain that draped over the bottom TV when we weren't using it to kind of make it look nicer. It was pretty funny.
Women love to make stuff hidden. That's what I've learned.
She was trying to hide. And then we would pull out the extra side TVs, but we're talking 2005, 2006, pre-streaming anything. You couldn't get Reddit streams. You just had to get multiple boxes from DirecTV.
Pre-iPhone.
Pre-iPhone.
Put it in perspective.
Yeah, so you're just sitting there, and I think for a long time I had at least 5 or 6 boxes from DirecTV just so we could watch NFL Sunday. And then it would always be this yearly negotiation with me and the DirecTV person. I'm like, I'm one of your best customers. Just give me a couple bucks off. It was, it was. And now you can stream everything and make it so much easier. People have no idea what we used to walk uphill both ways in the snow.
Dude, I remember because I just turned 32, and I remember in high school, you still couldn't watch European soccer games on TV. We used to go to the Spanish church where they would stream it all in Spanish. It was $20 to get in just to watch Real Madrid play Manchester on a Wednesday. And we would do that shit all the time.
The kids are spoiled now, huh?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I remember
you have access to everything.
When I was a very little kid, my dad was in the Air Force. He was originally from the Philly area, but we had moved around because he was in the military. And for 5 or 6 years, we were living in Colorado. I was a young Eagles fan, and he would take me to the sports bar when I'm 6 years old to watch the Eagles and the great Eagles teams. But it was one of those sports bars that had the giant satellites outside, the 5-foot satellite dishes. So yeah, it's crazy. And then obviously the DirecTV is the small one, and now it's all on streaming.
So how long after that did you guys start your show? Because you guys been going at it for a while. And when you go to the Twitter, you guys have that dope ass picture pinned to the top.
Oh yeah,
it's you guys just side by side next to each other, talking in front of one camera, and then it's you guys.
And then a shot here at the Blue Wire Studios at the Wynn, and we started out in 2011. Again, the show's name is Sports Gambling Podcast. and we have that trademark because no one had thought about calling a podcast sports gambling podcast.
Podcasts were pretty young then.
Yeah.
Too, you know.
So it was a good time to start because people ask us all the time, like, hey, how do I get into content, or, what should I be doing? And honestly, like the way to succeed, at least from what I see, is, find a niche, build a community around that. And when we were starting out, like sports gambling was a niche because it wasn't being covered that much.
It's like
especially
us
not
and
by
RJ
mainstream.
Bell,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, dude, for real. I always would describe it as the giant elephant in the room that everyone knew was there, but just wouldn't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I remember 2017 when Fox set up their broadcast desk in the back of the Westgate. And it was like the first year they were going to acknowledge that betting spreads exist and that people bet on these college basketball games.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the only content betting related that I was aware of, and I love sports gambling and was like kind of aware of the content, was Bill Simmons, doing his guess the lines
with Cousin Sal,
with Cousin
right?
Sal. And that was like the only thing that was out. And I think that was probably part of the inspiration where it was like they guessed the lines, but like, Ryan and I take off of that was like, well, we had the lines are out. What are we betting on? So it was kind of like the next thing of like, well, why aren't they picking every game against the spread? And that's kind of, I don't know. That's just kind of where we started out.
That mixed with the idea that it would be funny to make fun of touts.
Yes, also because we call ourselves, I'm Sean stacking the money green, and he's Ryan real money Kramer, and it started out as just making fun of these touts, and it just kind of stuck.
When they want $1,000 for their
Yes.
pick, and then they tell you minus 1,200 Ravens money line on a Thursday night.
Or the old school scam. I'm sure there's people doing versions of it on like Twitter or Patreon or TikTok where it's as easy as you have 1,000 people sign up for your picks. You give 500 people the Chiefs, 500 people the Eagles. 500 people just got the right pick. And then from those 500 people, you give 250 one pick, you give 250 another pick. You whittle it down, all of a sudden you got
You're never wrong.
You got 100 people that think you cannot go wrong.
Yeah.
So
Damn, dude. Yeah.
it's a good scam when you hear it out loud. You're like, oh yeah, that would definitely work.
Yeah, the touts are always outrageous, man. And I feel like I've gotten a good grasp. I do pretty well on NFL, do very well in UFC. Those are like the sports that I like to bet on the most. I don't really get input from anyone. Like I'll listen to your show sometimes because you guys go in depth with like teams that get blown out the week before, catching 7. Like that's what I would listen for.
Yeah.
And honestly, like the goal for us was like in making fun of the touts and trying to be entertaining. The goal was like, we'll teach you a little bit.
Right.
Like we've had people tell us like they can't remember what we picked. It was a good show, but you should, in theory, you're going to get better betting on sports listening to us because of the experience, right? Like, sure, we're not going to share our spreadsheet and show our projected power ratings and all this, but like that's the part of the industry now, and not to zoom ahead to current times, but that's like the saturation, right? Like everyone has data. It's easy to have data now.
Yeah,
computers can create great data.
Yeah. It's not like in fantasy football. It's like no one has a sleeper anymore.
No.
I respect Ryan's opinion on running backs. I'll listen to his sleeper, but evereveryone got access to the same data.
Yeah, you look at like you just Google fantasy football waiver wire, and it's like the 3 same guys every outlet puts out because it's the same formula of like targets on versus routes run in these type of offenses. So it's everyone kind of has the same access. And to me, I think where like our show separates itself is that we have a shit ton of experience. And for me, it's not always like what's fun about gambling is you're never going to completely figure it out. You're never going to be like, oh, okay.
It's like golf.
Hey. Yeah, it's golf because it's always like challenging. Stuff's always changing. But also to me, a lot of it is our experience is just like knowing what not to do. Like we've been out there. We've lost a bunch of money. Yeah. Like, don't do this. And I think in gambling, you almost have to learn the hard way, or at least have someone like us saying, hey, trust us. We've been gambling for years. This thing doesn't work. Stay away from this.
Well, and particularly because we have fun with it. So most people do want to have fun gambling. Some will probably want to make like a 401k approach, but most want to have fun. So if you show someone you can have fun, you can understand what you're doing a little bit better than.
Yeah. Well, and also like Ryan and I love gambling. We like we love gambling. Some people look at this and Ryan had a line about it that I use all the time where, hey, if you want a 2 or 3% return, yeah, put that in your 401k. You know, find a blue chip stock or whatever it is, something safe, or put it in a CD, whatever it is. Hey, this is gambling. Like, we want to have fun. Part of it is the entertainment. Like, hey, obviously it's more fun to win, but you should be able to just ride the ups and downs and have fun with it. Some people just are pure data, pure numbers. And yeah, it's like you put so much time to grind out like a 3% return. And it's just not fun.
Well, that's a big issue that I see with a lot of sports betting content, and even people that just gamble in general, where they don't have fun with it. Like, it gotta be a win. It gotta be.
Well,
a win.
because they're serious. It's
Yeah.
a serious
Yeah.
business. This is my career. I'm doing X, Y, or Z, and it's like, wow, you're missing the mark. The second you realize it's not about your picks, you'll maintain an audience. There's like a tiny fraction of the population that is smart enough and has like proprietary data that they can actually give you something different than you can find on your own, right? Like EPA, for example, in the NFL,
Yeah.
that's an open source statistic. It's no longer the Football Outsiders have this black box and they're hiding it, and you have to have that subscription or you're just a lame dude. Now anyone can do this. So like, these kids, they're learning they're using EPA, and all of a sudden they have the same data as like some data scientists. So if you can't take that data, it's just like a good teacher, right? If you can't teach through a medium that's entertaining or whatever, you're just another guy.
Yeah,
You're just another girl. You're just someone else saying the same thing as anyone else, and you're not going to differentiate yourself. And I think we see this. The sports gambling space has matured enough now. Like I said, 2017, like 2011, no one was doing sports gambling podcasts. 2017, networks say, you know what, we're going to show Vegas during March Madness. Now, 2023, everyone's doing it.
They have their own.
Everyone's doing
They
it.
have their own shows dedicated just to betting.
And what are we seeing? Some of these shows with the formula Sean described earlier, people that aren't gamblers, but they look nice on camera talking about gambling, not working. Some of those shows are they're showing up and they're disappearing. And I think the common thread to what bonds people do, why gambling is so awesome, is the group energy, right? It's just like laughter. When you're in a room of people gambling, you can feel that energy. We're going to be over at the Westgate in the beautiful ballroom there. And if you've never done it, you don't know what it is. But if you've been to a comedy club, you understand, because laughter is contagious in the same way. And so the fact that we have all of these content creators not tapping into that at all.
Yeah, they're missing out.
There's like no better feeling if all three of us are at the bar together and we're on the same side.
I mean, it's a similar thing. Like,
it's the best high ever.
last night, we were sitting. It's why craps is so fun. Last night we were sitting at the craps table, and then
Good call.
Ryan had a nice run throwing the dice, and just every point you hit, you're just high fiving.
I was
the
high
entire
fiving a Cowboys
table.
fan. I mean, that's the we were willing to look past our differences.
He's one of the good ones. This guy's like, hey, no, who forget?
So you two, that dynamic of Eagles Giants, does that ever get in the way between you two?
No.
No, because it's. I mean, it's fun, and again, we
Because
bond over.
there's not a team I hate more than the Eagles.
Cowboys?
No, they're number one for me.
Oh,
I mean, I
Because
understand.
I feel like the 33s and under that are Giant fans, for us it's the Eagles. Because Dallas won, but when the last time they won a Super Bowl, I was 4? Wasn't even watching football then.
Yeah.
That's true.
But
You missed
Philly-
their dominance.
Philly, I lived through McNabb. I lived through game-winning field goals in the playoffs.
Matt Dodge.
Matt Dodge.
Jake Elliott, 62-yarder.
Yeah, just the constant.
Deshaun Jackson.
Victor Cruz's career ends in Philly.
Yeah.
Every time Eli went in there, it was like, oh, this dude's never played football before. So it's like, fuck the Eagles always.
No, it's and we have owned you guys, so I understand that. But yeah, I mean, Ryan and I, obviously a few years older, but yeah, it was always just fuck the Cowboys, and that's the thing we can bond over. Isn't
it funny how we don't care about Washington at all?
it is. They're kind of in. They're not relevant.
Yeah.
They're kind of off in their own space. I mean, maybe with the new owner, they figure things out and they all of a sudden get Lamar Jackson, and all of a sudden they're in the conversation. But again, it's really been a while since they were relevant.
One of my good friends, Josh, he's a Washington fan. And every time I have some buddies that are Eagles fans, some buddies that are Cowboys fans, and they'll ask me, like, yo, how come you never hate Washington? I was like, no, they haven't broke my heart.
Yeah,
They're
they
like
haven't-
the little, like the much younger sibling in the family that like no one really beats
Yeah,
up
you're
because they're
kind of
like
just there. you
It's
know?
like the goth kid in the corner that already hates himself. Oh, what am I gonna make fun of him? He's crying. He's ready. He's gonna go home and listen to some emo music and consider cutting himself.
That's
what are you gonna make fun of that kid?
It's a great description.
He's going through a lot. Yeah,
Redskins, Commander, football fans, they've changed their name a million times. Like they have no identity. And the fans hate the organization more than you can hate them. So it's like, what are you doing?
Dude, also,
you would say to a Commanders fan, you guys suck. They're like, I know, I hate it, and blah, blah, blah. And you're like,
you see how much they're coming out for the XFL defenders in DC. Like,
just the chant.
It's the only, it's one of the two cities that is really like stepping up to support their team.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever been to the stadium in Washington?
Oh, it's the worst.
By far.
Worst.
No, I
the
hear,
number
I
one
hear
draft
nightmares.
pick
Yeah.
I've never seen a Washington football game there, but I've seen a college game there. I've seen a concert there, and it's the worst stadium in America to leave. It's like a 3-hour ordeal to get out of there.
It's isolated on its own, and we went there a couple of years ago because my buddy Josh, he's a big Washington fan, and it was when Cleveland got RG3. It was going to be his return to play Washington.
Yeah.
He ended up not playing that game because he got hurt. But dude, there was legit a section where the tickets were like $85 in the lower level. I was like, yo, let's get those. No bullshit. It was behind a pillar. like in Hey Arnold and
Obstructed
Rugrats,
view.
like that. It was bad. I was like, yo, fuck this place.
Yeah.
I'm never coming
Worst
here.
stadium.
Well, I
in
mean,
America.
you saw it. I mean, they almost took out Jalen Hurts when the railing collapsed.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you saw this, but it was great because the Eagles fans, next time they played in our FedEx Field there, a bunch of Eagles fans dressed up with caution tape and like wrapped themselves in caution tape and were like standing next to the railing, and they got kicked out for it. It was hilarious. It's like, dude, you're making yourself look so much worse. Just accept the joke
Yeah.
and move on.
When did you guys get into gambling and betting? Because I feel like all the real degens, it's not within the last 4 or 5 years.
No.
Well, see, I graduated college and I was looking for a career. No, I
Went
mean,
to I majored in podcasting and sports gambling media at school.
I would say this. I've been gambling long enough to know that like collections are on a Wednesday. I've been gambling long enough to know that like to call a guy to ask him what the number is.
Yeah.
Me and my buddies in high school would pool our money, and the guy would rip us off for every. We would lay -120, so bet 30 to win 25, and this was probably mid to late 90s. But yeah, I mean, it was just part of life. Honestly, not until I went to school in Virginia did I realize that it was not normal. Like everyone didn't have a bookie. Everyone didn't have like you didn't go out onto the freeway to McDonald's and meet the guy. Like that wasn't normal. And so yeah, I mean, I would say like preteen maybe would be my origin.
Yeah, I mean, my first ever bet was the Giants Bills Super Bowl where Norwood missed that field goal. I had bet my dad 50 cents that the Bills would win. It was straight up. He had the Giants. And then I remember the next day, he's like, where's my 50 cents? And I'm like, all right, okay, I guess.
Learn the lesson.
Yeah, and I was like, I guess you got to pay your bets.
But yeah, it is funny to hear people talk about their sports betting origin stories. Like and to tie it into like the way that people ask for refunds when with the void, like I enjoy the old school guys being like, yeah, I couldn't imagine like hopping on the phone with my bookie to be like, look,
even
Patrick Ewing got
here
hurt.
in Las Vegas, like, could you imagine taking your ticket? And it's different because it's online. It's easier to just be like refund. And part of me doesn't want to be a hater because if they actually give you your money back, all right, it's not hurting me. But like, could you imagine even here at the Win, great service, but imagine taking the ticket and going, I had an over on this, but the guy got hurt. Can I get my money back? Like, whoa. What would their reaction be?
Well, I don't know if you guys caught this, but there were a lot of casinos out here, and one in particular it's off the strip. It's one of those local ones where they weren't paying the win total for the Bengals because of DeMar Hamlin. And
yeah, because they didn't finish
and
the
it
game.
wasn't just the Bengals.
It had already gone over.
And it was also the win total, and it was the whole division. So all your AFC North tickets, all your AFC East tickets, if you have win totals,
because
they
need
have to
16,
play
17 games to be actually. Yeah.
Well, and some of that, I don't know. I had seen some of the explanation there. I don't know if some of it's their BS, but they were claiming like, hey, we can't pay it out because of we're licensed by the state of Nevada and we have to follow whatever their regulations are. I think when you're an online book, outside of, and again, it varies. Every state is completely different,
Correct,
which
yeah.
is why it gets to be a clusterfuck sometimes. But other states, like if you're DraftKings in New Jersey or FanDuel in Colorado, I think you have more ability to like grade it or refund it or something. I don't know. That's what they were claiming. I didn't really
To
dig
me,
deeper than that.
that's how you tell if someone's new to betting.
Yeah.
That's the litmus test.
Are there clamoring for free bets? I need a free bet for it.
Again, I
Yeah,
never
I
got a
don't-
free bet from my
Uncle
bookie.
Tony, or yeah, and again, I mean, it's sign up bonuses. If you ever started on the online stuff, the rollover is usually where they suck you in because it's just like, yeah, we'll give you 100% deposit match, but you got to play through it a bunch.
right.
And now with the offshores, like crypto, it actually has become way easier because like back in the day when Ryan and I were betting on like the offshores, you would have to like to get your money out was like
MoneyGrams?
Yeah, MoneyGrams.
They mail you a check from Canada.
Cashier
Yeah,
check.
yeah.
I remember I hit something on Bovada and then I
like
took
6 weeks.
Yeah, it takes 6 weeks, and then you bring the check in to get it cashed, and they charge you like $45 because it's from some Canadian bank. I'm like, I made $250. You felt so good, and then 45 of it goes to some Bank of America. It was infuriating. So there are so many ways it's gotten better, easier to gamble, more transparent.
Dude, for me, when I always tell this story, I was 7 years old, and I grew up a soccer kid. So I never really watched football. And then one Sunday, my uncle comes. Well, it was a Saturday. Comes and he gives me a parlay card. He's like, "Yo, pick four teams." I'm like, all right, know nothing about football. Didn't even know the Giants existed, the Jets, nothing. I pick circle 4 teams. Couldn't even tell you which ones they were. The next week he comes back, gives me $20, and he goes, "Dude, if you give me 4 winners each week," he's like, "you'll make a lot of money for me." And I'm there, I'm like, "Oh, this is easy." Spoiler, not easy at all. But that was
NFL
my
especially.
ever since then, dude. I would always like, circle and shit, and then from there went into basketball. And then when I got to high school, even my teachers were like, "Yo, what's the line this week? What do you like?" Like I was always a sports dude,
Yeah.
always.
If you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah. They would come to be like, "Oh, what do you think of this game?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." They're like, "No, bullshit." man."
Because it's one of those industries, like no matter where you were, if you wanted to find your way into action, there was a way to find your way into action.
And again, there's been these Trojan horses essentially for sports gambling, right? It started out as fantasy, and then everyone plays fantasy. They're putting in a couple bucks, and then daily fantasy came, and it's like, oh, okay, hey, this isn't like every state. You could win a bunch of money. You're putting in money. It's not gambling. It's a contest.
Skill based.
Yeah, and then the two biggest DFS companies all of a sudden decide to become sports books. It was obviously a plan long term, and they did a great job of just like making it super accessible, enticing people with these huge payouts, getting a ton of users already, and then when PAPSA got overturned, they're like, oh, okay, now we can really go to work and switch the flip the switch and become a sports book.
When that went down, did that change anything for your show? Did you guys get even more exposure since you guys were in there from the beginning? Because that was something that happened with me. Because when we started Veterans Minimum in 2015, right away there was 4 other guys that I was doing the show with, and I was a sports betting guy. So while we're breaking down football, whatever it might be, it's here come the trends, rookies on the road in their first start, shit like that. And that's how I kind of carved my lane in like the content space. I was a sports betting dude. But then when it got legal in Jersey, now all my friends are like, oh, now I'll be able to do it more. I don't feel like a piece of shit calling the bookies.
Yeah, no, and it creates, it's more accessible. It's now that it's not illegal, it's more out in the open. And it's obviously legalization's huge because then people get into it and they're like, hey, I want to like listen to shows about it. And they put in sports gambling podcasts. We come up, they check out the show and hang around. It definitely helped.
It certainly it creates a lot more competition, though, right? Like to your point, a lot more guys are like the sports betting guy now, And so I think that was the scary part was there was a ton more competition. But now looking back on it from 3-4 years, it seems like the content that came in to be the competition is some of that less organic, less authentic content. So if anything, it helps us kind of highlight ourselves as, to your point, like just dudes that have been doing it for a while.
if you're in the trenches of sports betting, you guys know this. Like, you could tell right away that
Yeah.
someone doesn't know what they're talking about, or even just
Yeah,
being
just look
able
at,
to.
like ISO on my eyes. Like, see the bags under my eyes right now? This is what it looks like to grind out. March Madness. We've been here since Monday. We're not leaving until Saturday. This is what it's supposed to look like. If it doesn't look like this, don't trust it.
Yeah, you start to expose the fakes, and you're like, man, you're not really about it.
Yeah.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and hey, I mean, there's usually a correlation between how chirpy and like energetic someone is, and they don't know what they're talking about gambling. Rarely do those two forces combine.
Have you guys been coming out to Vegas for March Madness often?
Oh yeah. I mean,
This is my first experience
Oh.
being in.
so those are like the two trips that were always on the books, even before we had a podcast. Was that the first weekend of NFL and then the first 2 days of March Madness? Because those are just awesome times to be out.
I want to say it's been we're probably getting very like maybe 17 years. Like 2006 maybe was the first year we came out. It might have been Sweet 16 weekend. But yeah, I mean, I was actually you said, hey, like make sure you're ready to talk about a big score. And so I went to look up when the story I was going to tell happened, and it happened in 2010. So
really,
I was like, holy crap, we've been coming out for a while.
What was it?
Well, I'll let you know. It was Saturday. It was a game between Wisconsin and Cornell.
yes.
And so the first I had done very well on that Friday, and I kind of went to the window to cash in a bunch of tickets. And you know, when you finish cashing them in, they go, "Do you want to make any bets?" And I go, I want to put all of that on Cornell money line against Wisconsin. They were like plus 175. By halftime, it was a 15-point game. It was boring, and I even went on record to say like it was. And this is how you know I'm into gambling. I was like, it's the biggest win of my life at that point. I think I had a couple $1,000s on a almost 2-to-1 money line, and I was pissed off. I didn't get to sweat it all. I like the bet was
Kramer goes, this is boring. I'm gonna win. I don't even get a sweat out of this. Like, he won a ton of money. What are you talking about?
It was one of those moments where it was just like, this isn't right. I put every dollar in my pocket on this to feel something.
Man, you want that blood pressure to skyrocket. Yeah. That's what you want.
Now, granted, it was a great trip, but one of the better March Madness trips I've ever had. But yeah, pretty wild situation to be almost upset that you won a lot of money.
What about you?
Oh yeah, I mean the biggest win I ever hit was well, I was watching it out here in Vegas, but I actually placed a lineup. It was daily fantasy. It was 2017. It was week 1 of the NFL season. I had a bunch of Eagles guys in there, and it was opening day, Eagles versus Redskins. Eagles win. Eagles get a defensive touchdown. I had Carson Wentz, back when I liked Carson Wentz, and Zach Ertz in there. There was a running back by the name of Tariq Cohen who was like a steal because he caught like 10 passes and he was only $3,200 or something.
That's when he had that wild preseason, and then he came in. Yeah.
And I was all over that because I thought,
was this on DraftKings?
Yeah, it was on DraftKings.
So you got the full PPR also?
Full point PPR, and so this was when their Millie Maker. I put a lineup into the Millie Maker. It was like me and 270,000 people each put in $20. After the 10 a.m. games go, I'm sitting in first place. So it says Sean Green, $1 million. I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. I'm just walking around, just cigarette after cigarette, not even like a big smoker, like just freaking out because I had to sweat the entire afternoon slate. And then even the night game. This is back in the day where the night game also was included in the Millie Maker. Yeah, so I had to sit through, and since there's so many entries, you don't even know what you're rooting against, right? Like, I can see the kind of guys close, but you have no idea. Like, this guy could have 10 people going late. So I'm just sitting there, just a nervous wreck, and I'm watching the game. And then one guy behind me in the standings, is second place. He had the Rams defense. The Rams were playing the Colts. Boy, Andrew Luck was out. He didn't start the season, and Scott Tolzien, this piece of shit, Scott Tolzien, throws a pick six. And then I see the guy scooch up, and he's only 2 points behind me. And then Scott Tolzien throws another pick six, knocks me out of first place, which was $1 million, down to second place, which was $200K. And then from there on, it just the sweat was on. It was Giants Cowboys was the night game. I got to the night game still sitting in second place. Luckily, Odell Beckham was a late scratch. And so, since there was only one game, you couldn't really use that salary to find like another high price alternative. I think that really helped me out. And it was just this ugly game between the Giants and the Cowboys. I think it ended up being like 10-9. And I'm just rooting against anything, no catches, no points. I think there was only one touchdown in that game. And then clock hit 0 and I won $200,000. So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. Dude, I always hated the drop off between first and second in those
crazy.
contests.
It's crazy.
Worst. Now I think it's even worse. Now I think it's 1 million and then 150K.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
It was a pretty wild situation. I mean, Sean wanted to leave Vegas like right at that moment. He's like, let's just drive home now. Like, we're all fucked up.
I was just like scared something would happen. Someone would steal my phone and like hack
throw
my
back
thing.
to the old offshores. Like, he's going to lose the money before he's cashed it out.
Yeah, or something like, because you can't play DFS in Nevada, but I created the lineup, placed the lineup, didn't edit any of it in California, but I'm like, something bad's going to happen. I was just paranoid.
Dude, I was super paranoid. March of last year, there was a UFC card that I came out here with one of my buddies. It was Covington and Mazola. And on everything that I stand for, I'll never have another betting day like that. I hit every single UFC bet.
Oh.
Prop, how they were going to win.
Yes.
I hit 4 parlays.
Oh my God.
2 4-fighters, 1 6, and a 9.
Oh, my God.
I had three split decisions all go my way.
Oh, man.
And I'm hammered as this is going on.
Life-changing.
The first 2 were like 2-1 dogs. So the first 2 fights of the card go our way. And I turned to my buddy. I was like, yo, I think we're going to win like a lot of money. And as it's going, it's like more beer.
It's the
more beers
momentum, yes.
And I'm just turning, and the main card starts. It's like, bro, we have just minus 300 favorites the rest of the way. And then it's winning, and I'm obliterated right before co-main. I'm like, dude, we're going to have so much money. He's like, nah, don't say that. Don't say that. Bad juju. We end up hitting, and I had my my VM bomber jacket. So it has this like shady, sneaky pocket over here, and I had all the tickets. And at one point, I take my jacket off and I leave it behind the chair. And my buddy just goes, yo, what are you doing? I was like, holy shit. So I just had it up, buttoned up all the way. We end up going and cash the tickets. And it was close to 20K.
Oh, man.
And we
How'd that
probably,
feel?
that was the most money I've ever had on me at one point.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I was like, dude, this is wild. We ended up splitting it, him and I, but it was still like 10K each that we walked away with.
Not
And
a
I was
bad
like,
night
dude,
at work.
and we're walking from Park MGM back to the Wynn. So dumb because we have like $20,000 on us.
Yeah.
And it's 2 a.m. We're hammered walking through the strip. And we get back to the room and I take my jacket off. I would go, yo, bro, that was really fucking stupid. We just walking by.
Yeah, you could afford a cab.
Yeah, you would think so, right?
You could swing it.
Man, do you guys ever get any any shady news about a bet?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
But it never turns out to be accurate.
It's like, oh, hey, this guy's the flu, and then you bet against him, and it turns out he does have the flu, but then
He still has a career
dominates.
game?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
that's the best.
Michael Jordan flu game.
Yeah.
You get that information, you're like, oh, I'm taking the Jazz, and then Michael Jordan dominates. So all the inside information we get, it's still like
The record,
rarely.
it's a really bad record. Like
Yeah.
when someone slides into the DMs and is like, I know the coach on some small college and the entire defensive line is going to be out. And then it's like, all right, cool. You take them, like, lay in whatever the points is, and then they get their ass beat.
Yeah.
Well, you wanted to talk about like worse gambling bets on the other side, and it was courtesy of the inside information. Someone hit me up and they're like, yo, dude, I know it sounds crazy, but my buddy, he works with the guys that did the Puppy Bowl. Like, this thing is already filmed. Team Rough is going to destroy Team Fluff. Like, it's already in the can. They've edited it. He saw it. It's good. So then I go on all these shady offshores and I'm loaded up on Team Rough. And then, of course, Team Fluff, I knew I was screwed when Team Fluff had like a 3-legged dog. I'm like, Animal Planet isn't letting the 3-legged dog loose. Of course, he wins MVP, most valuable pup. It's just a bloodbath. I lose all this money on, again, it was the worst because it was a stupid thing to bet on to begin with. And I felt, and doing it because you got inside information, feeling so smart. and then just getting your ass kicked. It was right before the Brady, the 28-3 Super Bowl, which I actually got bailed out in that game because I had Patriots -3.5. So they ended up winning in overtime, and it would have been a great gambling day had I not gotten destroyed by the Puppy Bowl earlier in the day.
Dude, the insider info, when you get it, it's the worst. Like, I had someone text me about McCaffrey when he was playing the Eagles.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, he's limping on the sideline. It don't look good. So I took all unders. He went over here like a monster game. It's like, oh. And I told one of my buddies, he goes, yo, do me a favor. Tell your boy never to text you again.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's like you just got to stay away from that.
The best tip I ever got was from when I was in Miami for a bachelor party, and the Nets were playing the Heat. This is in 2019. It's when D'Angelo Russell was still on the Nets. Yeah. So before they made all these trades. And I've been going to Miami for like a decade prior to that. And one of my friends, her and her crew, they're strippers at 11. But the one girl is like a manager. She goes in like a 3-piece suit. She's the one that orchestrates everything, whatever. She goes, we meet him at the beach Friday morning, and the game is at night. And she's like, oh, what are you guys doing tonight? I was like, oh, we're going to the Nets game because one of the guys that was getting married, the guy that was getting married, he's a basketball fan, but also his best man is a Nets fan. So we're like, oh, we're going to go to the game later. She's like, oh, the Nets were just at the strip club until this morning. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, they just, as we were leaving, I grabbed my boy's phone. I was like, yo, give me your phone. I text my bookie. I was like, I need $500 on the Heat money line. And the Heat had like Deion Waiters and tail end of Hassan Whiteside. They paid him, and like he wasn't playing at all. And he calls me, he goes, dude, you're not a $500 better. Like, what do you know? I was like, yeah, I just need this. And then he ended up tailing it also with like another bookie because
classic locals guy.
And the Heat ended up winning by like 30 something. They were up 40 at halftime. Yeah, and I felt like the man. I was like, yo, this is the best insider information ever.
Yeah. We're walking around town.
Dude, it was the best moment ever, dude. That's my favorite one.
Oh,
my favorite betting story, without a doubt.
Nice.
Man. What would you, as we start to wrap up, because I know we're running out of time here, I want to mention like kind of a generic question, but like what is the future of sports betting in your opinion? And how do you feel about sports betting right now? Between like your peers or just where it's at?
I think you're at the phase where like it's annoying the person that isn't the sports bettor because it's everywhere. It's new. It's barely regulated, so they're still figuring out the best way to do everything. And you're dealing with a lot of like, you have to almost think of like the tech boom. You have all these gambling companies that have infinite resources because states still are yet to legalize. And so until the majority of the country is in legal states, I think you're going to continue to see this like constant struggle between the books are bad because they're offering same game parlays. They're not educating their consumer base. All of that gets sorted out. I mean, I certainly think you look at Europe, we're probably like 15 to 20 years behind where they are, but they have betting exchanges where you can go peer-to-peer betting. You can walk down a street and just walk up to an ATM and place a bet. You can be in a bar and go place a bet.
Every soccer stadium in Europe, they have a kiosk before.
It's not taboo, and it just makes it a lot easier to not have to worry about getting ripped. Like whether it's the books ripping you off because the bad pricing and because there's not enough competition, or it's just this idea that the consumer base is too dumb to understand the bad bets they're making. Like all of that, just it's experience, right? We just need time for it to kind of sift out, and then. We're close to a real cool play. I think the big change will be when we go from just having these operators to having these exchanges. The idea that you could take someone's action. You could go out and find your action, right? That's what's really going to drive the pricing to a place where no one's getting screwed, right? The price of eggs in every state is the same. We're not dealing with like because right now I think the criticisms are real. Like these books are clearly taking advantage of people that don't know what they're doing. But it's a free country. And, I think that will get sorted out by way of competition, right? Like people are going to go to the place where the best prices lie.
Well, you saw that happen a lot in New York when it first went down. A lot of the apps were giving out these like sign-up bonuses, and some were just make an account. You don't even need to deposit anything. They were giving you money. And I remember my mom being like, "Oh, it's so nice of them." It's like, dude, they're putting out the bait. They're putting out the bait for a reason. They're giving you $500 to play, and like you were saying before, Sean, how you have to run through it before you can take out your money. But at that point, they've trapped you. And all my friends, dude, every one of my friends hit a crazy parlay that first weekend. It got legal, and they all said the same thing, like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy. This is gonna be a layup." It's like my friends that know the most about sports are the dumbest bettors.
Oh yeah, a lot of times
It's always the case, right?
Well, and sometimes it's easier as a handicapper to do stuff where you're not a huge fan of one team, or you don't have all these like previous biases, and you're coming in with a clean slate.
Yeah, like I can't bet on the Cowboys.
Yeah, even if it was a good bet, I'm not. I'd rather lose money than bet on the Cowboys.
They're good, but yeah, I mean, I do.
I used to never draft NFC East players.
I've been playing
leagues.
fantasy for 15 years. Never had a Cowboy in my lineup. Never. No, we'll see.
But that's it though, right? Like that's the reality.
Yeah, and I think too with like sports gambling, we're still like just cracking the surface, because you have California and Texas, like that. Those are two of the biggest states population wise. Once those get turned on,
and
it's going to
Florida
even
too.
Yeah, Florida's right there as well.
It's like you have that step, and then you have the step where they allow the states to actually work with one another. Because a lot of the rules, like operators have to like isolate their instance in Iowa, and that can't be the same betting instance that's talking in like Virginia. And I think once you have like this full nationwide betting market, it will sort out all those problems. Because if you're a bad book because you kick people out or because you offer horrible prices, people will just start going somewhere else. Because again, Europe, how many options do you have? Like you have like 20, 30, 40 options. So if this place sucks, I'm just going to go over here.
Yeah, your reputation is going to be tainted.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're just not. Do you guys ever bet against your teams?
Never bet
Really?
against my team.
Even
Nope.
if it's a bad line?
No, never.
Again, it's entertainment. So like you can do. There's plenty of other bets you can make. To
Right.
not bet
I've
against your
heard of
team.
people doing emotional hedges where it's like, hey, I either win my bet or my team wins. Me, I'm the exact opposite. I would just bet a ton of money, like for the Super Bowl. Hey, if the Eagles lose, I'm gonna want to kill myself. So I'm not gonna worry about whatever money I lost. You know, it's a couple grand's not gonna make me feel good if the Eagles lost the Super Bowl. So
It's gonna be even worse.
I'm gonna be all in either way. So yeah,
For me-
I can't. I don't have it in me.
For me, like when the Eagles played the Giants in the playoffs, I knew the Eagles were going to win by 3 touchdowns. I didn't bet it, but when people were asking me about it, it's like I can't root for that to happen.
Yeah.
But bias aside, I think the Eagles are going to beat them by 3.
So the way
touchdowns.
you would say that is you'd say, well, that's a tough matchup. I don't know
We're
if I'm
gonna have our hands full.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm looking to make that bet. This
Yeah, I think
weekend.
every single there have been times where I've been mad at the team on the show. There's some dark days in the Chip Kelly era.
Hold on, dude. You have one of the best rants about why you say we.
Oh yeah,
I was here for that. I think you might have been here, but I remember seeing that clip, and it's amazing.
yeah.
And
no,
I couldn't agree. I've stolen it.
It's just like, yeah, of course I'm going to say we. I'm an Eagle way more than some guy that just played for a couple of years. I was born into this. I've cried my heart out. Like I've broken so many things in my house because of the game. Like this is my life or death. You're just a guy at a job. I'm a part of the team.
Yeah.
I'm the heart of the team.
It's especially funny.
Like me and Brian Dawkins. Yeah, that's it.
It's especially funny
Nick
when
Foles is
we're
on
talking to an actual athlete who's playing on a team or played on a team, and they say we, and then Sean counters
Yeah,
with
I'm
a
like,
we.
you're right.
He's
We-
talking about the Eagles.
Yeah,
that happened with me and Will Blackman when we were doing a show together because he won the Super Bowl with the Giants, and I actually went to that game. I was like, that was a good game, man. We won that. He's like, what do you mean we? I was like, I was there. I was like, all right. It's still, when they lose, when I know the Giants are good and they lose, it hurts more than it did like the last couple of years. When they were losing, I was like, whatever, man. They suck. They're not that good. It didn't bother me as much. But when the Giants are good and they lose, that's where it's like
That's where it
devastating
hurts.
to me.
Fucking Plaxico, man.
Oh, I know. I've never been more convinced that my team was going to win a championship than that year.
Yeah, they were dominating.
They were beating the shit out of everyone. And then, add that to why I hate the Eagles. The one time Eli gets a bye, they play Philly, and Eli couldn't complete a pass.
Horrible.
Fellas, this was awesome. I'm glad we did this.
Thanks so much for having us.
Nah, I've been looking forward to this for a while just to chop it up. And I'm a big fan of your work. And
Well,
you guys are
same,
dope.
man. Thanks for having us.
Where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, at Gambling Podcast on Twitter, Sports Gambling Podcast on the IG, and then just wherever you get podcasts, just put us in. Can't miss us.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Let's win some bets.
At Veterans Minimum, where you can find all things VM, and we'll catch you guys next time.